Hello, I'm Adam Wren,
And I'm Dasha Burns. It is Wednesday, August 20th.
and this is the Playbook Podcast.
Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Dasha. Let's get right to what's driving the day.
Let's do it.
First up, if you've been on X at all over the last week, you probably noticed that there's been a major uptick in the amount of Gavin Newsom content.
He's everywhere. You can't escape it.
Yeah, I mean, he's on Mount Rushmore. He is riding a raptor in front of the White House. He is being prayed over by Angel Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock and others. These are all, of course, AI-generated slop images that have taken over X timelines everywhere.
Man, the internet's getting weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I mentioned this earlier on the podcast this week that I was surprised by this. And so I wanted to figure out, Dasha, how did Gavin Newsom end up in my typically right-coded, MAGA-friendly For You tab on X?
What kind of algorithm has he hacked, Adam? What's going on here?
Yeah, so I spent some time talking to people behind the Gavin Newsom press office account on X, which is pretty fast growing and is getting the ire of the White House and other Republicans. And I found out that essentially they are gaming the X algorithm. And what they're doing is they're racing to the bottom. They are posting AI slop, all caps tweets. They are emulating Donald Trump's behavior online, but they're doing it in a way where they're not just mimicking it to mimic it. They're actually, in their view, holding up a mirror to MAGA and trying to reflect back to MAGA what they see. And I thought it was interesting last week when Gavin Newsom announced his new approach to redistricting and the maps, he was asked about this new X persona and essentially broke character and said, look, if you have a problem with the content of my tweets, you ought to ask the president, the leader of the free world, about his style of tweets.
Oh, so this is very meta.
Yeah, very meta. And he is trying to both emulate Trump and his fighter style and also turn a mirror on it and ask deeper questions about the president's approach to X.
Do you think voters are going to get that?
I don't think voters are going to get it, but I think that the kinds of online Democrats who give to Act Blue and volunteer for campaigns are going to take notice and are taking notice. We heard yesterday Pod Save America guys sort of praise this strategy. And when we reached out to the White House for comment, they sent us their own meme in response to Newsom. It was the Mad Men meme where one of them says, I feel bad for you. And the other one says, I don't think about you at all, except it was Newsom saying, I feel bad for you. And then a version of Trump saying, I don't think about you at all to Newsom.
To be clear, official comment from the White House came in meme form. This is the era in which we are living.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting window into what 2028 could be like.
Buckle up, kids.
Yeah, where we have sort of like the first post-literate election where it's AI slop, it's memes. And of course, we all know that Vice President J.D. Vance is no stranger to a good meme. He likes a good meme, and his team sort of embraces that online culture.
Here we go.
I think it's really a fascinating development. But if you step back, it really shows, I think, how Newsom is leaning into this moment. He had a rocky rollout with his podcast, didn't get a lot of great reviews earlier in the year, pivoting to the center on the trans sports issue. But it does seem like he's bottling something and channeling something where Democrats really want someone who's a fighter.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, another interesting story was around the Democratic response in liberal cities that Pam Bondi and the DOJ are targeting. They're targeting sanctuary cities. And some of these mayors have responded really strongly and have taken this sort of fighter position. And that's been actually really popular for some of them and has helped them gain traction. So the thing that I heard time and time again on the campaign trail in 2024 from voters who love Trump was that one of the main reasons they love him is because he's a fighter. And from Democratic voters who hate Trump, they wanted a foil to Trump in the form of a fighter, just one that can do it from the Democratic lens. So it's fascinating to see Newsom sort of at the forefront of experimenting with what kind of formats that could take and what could work.
Yeah, and my takeaway is this is just another instance where Donald Trump seems to have permanently changed our politics. And in a lot of ways, I don't think they're fully given credit for this, but Trump, for as old as he is and as such a relic of sort of 90s pop culture that he is, he really was far out ahead in adopting meme culture,
Yeah.
going on podcasts, YouTube. I think some of that was Barron Trump, his son, but he is at the avant garde of this movement.
No, that's absolutely right. And I think that the Republican ecosystem online has remained much more robust than that of Democrats. And it'll be interesting to see as we get into midterms and into 2028 how Dems build that up on their end.
The second story we're watching today is the ongoing diplomatic back and forth between Ukraine, the US, Europe, and Russia. On Monday, of course, we had the day of meetings in Washington between Trump, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and a number of top European leaders. And we're still advancing towards the next steps. First, there's going to be a one on one with Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. And then, Dasha, as you have been reporting, a potential trilateral with Zelensky, Putin, and Trump. You had a scoop about this, Dasha. Tell us a little bit about this in the latest state of play here.
Yeah, I'll caveat this by saying that everything to do with next steps here is still fluid, right? But what I'm hearing from my sources is that the White House is eyeing Budapest as the location for a trilateral meeting between Trump, Putin, and Zelensky. Now, this is a significant location for several reasons. Number one, for Trump, this is a place that he is interested in because he's been close to Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, since his first term. For Putin, this is friendly territory. Orban and Hungary have been pretty close, pretty pro Russia, pro Putin. For Zelensky, not so friendly territory, right? And symbolic as well, because Budapest is the location of the 1994 Budapest Memorandum that was an early attempt to solidify Ukrainian sovereignty that clearly was violated. So that attempt failed in that very location. So it'll be interesting to see if that transpires. Right now, that's what the White House is eyeing. But of course, that bilateral meeting has to happen first. And the Russians, you can already see, are trying to slow roll it. Steve Witkoff has been tasked in part to make sure that that does happen. The White House wants to strike while the iron is hot. That's a phrase that I've been hearing a lot. They want to keep that momentum going. So again, this push and pull that we're going to see over the coming days and weeks of just how much is President Trump and this administration going to be able to drive this thing forward and keep up the momentum.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Josh. Stepping back here, we did see the president on Fox and Friends yesterday sort of maybe tack back away from Europe in some ways. And we've heard a lot in a time since these key meetings in Washington. Where are we at on the security guarantees that have roiled parts of MAGA? And where are we at on how genuine this reset that Trump has had with Zelensky?
Look, I think there's the sort of public facing messaging, and then there's the behind the scenes machinations of diplomacy and of military and defense coordination, right? And the behind the scenes work is happening. I know from my sources that Marco Rubio is in large part leading the efforts to start to put pen to paper and really nail down the details of what do security guarantees mean. Now, the US does expect that Europe will play a large and larger role than the US in terms of actually on the ground peacekeeping efforts in Ukraine. Trump, as you mentioned, went on Fox News, said no troops on the ground. Now, a lot of presidents have said no troops on the ground in the past, but that has not necessarily meant that there wouldn't be a significant presence there in some way, shape, or form, right? So I think that the security guarantees is something that all of my sources are telling me is the number one priority. It is something that has been committed to, but it's early days in terms of ironing out those details. And that, of course, is going to be a huge sticking point for MAGA. And expect Trump to message this in a way that tries to placate the base. But in the meantime, there's a lot going on behind the scenes between all of these players too, right? I mean, you now do have serious partners involved who are willing in Europe to step up and have real skin in the game. So it's so early, but it's moving quickly. At least everyone that was in the White House on Monday is trying to make it move as quickly as possible.
And that brings us back to our third story of the day and back to Washington, where Trump's ongoing crackdown on the capital city is leading Republican-led states to send their own National Guard troops to D.C. The latest, we've got Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana, and together with the previously announced deployments from Ohio, West Virginia, and South Carolina, Dasha, that's about 1,200 National Guard troops on the ground.
Not a very big city, by the way.
Yeah. In addition to about 800 DC National Guard members already deployed, there was a sense, Dasha, that this was a president maybe looking for a quick PR win before moving on. What's the state of play here and the thinking long term on this?
Well, I think now it's a lot of these Republican governors looking for a quick PR win for that audience of one with President Trump. I mean, I don't think anyone in DC was crying out for additional National Guard, but it's a lot of these players that want to show, okay, we are on board. We're here to support you. It's similar to sending troops down to the border, right? It's a message. It's symbolic to show the president that they're on his side here.
Yeah, it's interesting. My mom in Ohio, who consumes her news through Fox News, knows that I occasionally, travel to Washington, D.C. for work. And she called me last week and had seen the images and wanted to make sure that I was okay. So that's how this tableau is being absorbed in middle America.
That's fascinating. I mean, first of all, your mom is a very sweet lady, it sounds like, but it is kind of jarring that that is now the image of Washington, D.C. that is represented to the rest of the country.
And as always, we like to end the show with something from the Playbook newsletter. Dasha, in our Playbook Top today, we talk all about the different kinds of AI-generated images.
It's a very meme-themed playbook today.
That's right. So Newsom has some images of him riding a dinosaur in front of the White House, riding a different dinosaur with pistols raised in the air on Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
I'm curious, if you could have an AI-generated image of yourself, what would you go with?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I grew up obsessed with Xena, the warrior princess. And as a child, I had like this light up sword that anytime there was a fight scene in the show, I would like get off the couch and start like fighting with the furniture. So to honor little Dasha, I would love a Dasha as Xena the warrior princess meme. What is your dream meme?
I noticed Newsom has one as Paul Bunyan, and I grew up hearing a lot about Paul Bunyan, the lumberjack. So that, or maybe an Oregon Trail like Conestoga wagon, where I'm driving.
That is so sweet, Midwestern boy of you.
Yeah. So
I love it. Well, listen, let's get ready.
Yeah, I'm sort of reluctant that we've shared this now. I'm sort of reluctant to see.
We've made ourselves vulnerable.
That's right. Well, as always, send us your tips, birthdays, or spotted moments to playbook@politico.com. Dasha, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Adam.
And that's all for today's Playbook Podcast. We have much more news and analysis in today's Playbook newsletter, which you can find at politico.com/playbook. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday.
Thanks for listening.